Better marketing, better leads. Drive more qualified leads and get more sales from the first click to the final close with a winning digital marketing strategy from dealer.com.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Thursday, November 6th, 2025. I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, CarMax's CEO fired as the company looks to, quote, strengthen its business. Nissan has now closed 6 of its 7 factories in an effort to cut cost, and a look at all the cool happenings coming out of SEMA. Plus, S&P Global mobility analyst Stephanie Brinle joins the show to talk about where hybrid vehicle technology is headed.
It's working for people right now. They understand it. They're familiar with it. It's a little bit more efficient. It's a little bit cheaper on gas.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry. CarMax's longtime CEO, Bill Nash, will part ways with the company on December 1st as part of a leadership shakeup aimed to strengthening the business. Board member David McCreight will serve as interim CEO, while former CEO Tom Fallard becomes interim executive chair. Fallard said the changes reflect the need for more direct oversight as the company works to boost sales, profitability, and reduce cost. The used vehicle giant also issued a weaker third quarter outlook, forecasting same-store sales down as much as 12% and citing soft retail demand and sharp wholesale depreciation. Nissan will close its joint venture factory with Mercedes-Benz in Mexico by the end of this month, marking the automaker's 6th shutdown in a global cost-cutting push. The Aguascalientes plant builds the Infiniti QX50 and QX55, which will end production as Nissan works to trim capacity by up to 3 million vehicles by 2028. CEO Ivan Espinosa said 6 of 7 targeted closures are now complete, while the company will also sell and lease back its Yokohama headquarters to free up capital. The move further reduces Infiniti's lineup, though Nissan plans to rebuild it with new models, including a sedan and crossover. And the SEMA show in Las Vegas once again delivered bold concepts and creative builds from automakers. Ford showed off a 300-horsepower Maverick 300T street truck, while Honda's Type R HRC Rally XP turned a Civic into a rally-ready racer. Toyota blended past and future with its hydrogen-powered Tacoma H2 Overlander and retro turbo-tail cruiser. Nissan leaned into adventure with the Dune Patrol and Frontier Rapid Runner, and Stellantis brought Mopar muscle with the Dude Ram 1500. The annual event proves that innovation and imagination remain alive in the auto world and will continue on through this weekend. And those are today's headlines. You can find more details on all those stories at autonews.com. Now joining me to talk more about the Supreme Court's oral hearing on the legality of Trump's tariffs is Molly Boygon, a technology and innovation reporter for us at Automotive News. Molly, welcome back to Daily Drive.
Thanks for having me, Kel.
So Molly, what's been going on with the Supreme Court and the oral arguments on the legality of the tariffs? Get us up to speed.
Yes. So there have been several business owners that have challenged the imposition of the quote unquote reciprocal tariffs, which have been levied against different countries across the world. And lower courts basically struck down the legality of the tariffs. And now this week, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments both from the United States and from lawyers representing the business owners about the tariffs question. So there's sort of 2 things at issue here. One is Trump established these tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And in general, there are powers that the president has to regulate trade. However, the Congress is the body that has the power of the purse and the regulatory authority to tax. So one of the issues is, does President Trump have powers under this 1977 statute to basically use trade powers to levy tariffs which may or may not be a tax on Americans? That's kind of one of the questions. The other question is, this statute is, it's called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. It's supposed to be used in times of emergency. So the Trump administration contends that the trade deficits that the U.S. faces with other countries constitute a national security threat and an economic emergency. And there's a question at the court, first of all, about whether the designation of an emergency is really a question that's up to the determination of the court. And also, if it is, whether a trade deficit really constitutes an emergency. One sort of thing that came up in oral arguments yesterday is that the U.S. has been in trade deficits with various trading partners since the 70s. So can an emergency last, 50 years, or is that sort of an exaggeration? And then also, what is the role of tariffs in mitigating a trade deficit? Because while the intention may be to reestablish balance in a trade relationship, there's no guarantee that leveraging tariffs will actually impact the trade deficit.
And do you think the justices will side with the administration?
The oral arguments yesterday indicated a skepticism on the part of not only the liberal justices on the court, but some members of the court's conservative majority. So there were, very intense and pointed questions from Justice Amy Coney Barrett, from Chief Justice John Roberts about that congressional authority versus executive branch authority question on trade. Here's one question that Chief Justice Roberts asked of the Trump administration attorneys.
I think this is a question for the other side as well. It's two-facing. Yes, of course, tariffs in dealings with foreign powers, but the vehicle is imposition of taxes on Americans, and that has always been the core power of Congress. So to have the president's foreign affairs power trump that basic power for Congress seems to me to kind of at least neutralize between the two powers, the executive power and the legislative power.
So this case will be decided in weeks or months, and we don't know, beyond the questions, what the justices are debating and what their final opinions will look like. But it did appear that even conservative justices had issues and questions about the way that this statute is being leveraged by the administration in such a broad and powerful way by the executive branch.
All right. Very interested to see how this plays out. Molly Boygon, technology and innovation reporter for us at Automotive News. Molly, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Cal.
Coming up, hybrids are hitting a sweet spot with drivers who want better fuel economy and performance. S&P Global Mobility analyst Stephanie Brinle explains why these vehicles aren't just a bridge to EVs, but a solution that's working for consumers right now. That's next on Daily Drive.
Better solutions, better outcomes. As the premier digital marketing agency, OnlyDealer.com delivers connected solutions backed by Cox Automotive, helping you drive qualified leads and close deals faster. Better websites, better engagement. Our intuitive, data-driven websites personalize the shopping experience before the deal begins, using insights only Cox Automotive can provide. Better digital retailing, better deals. Activate across dealer.com, AutoTrader, and KBB.com to create a seamless, personalized journey. Kelley Blue Book My Wallet lets shoppers enter budget info and see personalized payments. With Accelerate My Deal, that data flows into the retailing experience so buyers complete more steps online. Better personalization, better advertising. Our advertising solutions use real-time buying signals to deliver personalized experiences, boosting engagement with 2.9 times more VDP views, 2 times more site visits, and 2.4 times more leads. Stand out from your competition with a custom-built digital marketing strategy, better search visibility, and local reach. Dealer.com by Cox Automotive. Drive more leads, close deals faster.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Kellen Walker. Hybrid vehicles are evolving and winning over consumers looking for both performance and efficiency. Stephanie Brinle is an analyst at S&P Global Mobility. She spoke with our own Jerry Hirsch about how automakers are refining hybrid systems and why drivers are responding so strongly to the balance they offer. She also shared insights on the role of plug-in hybrids and extended-range EVs, and why these technologies may not just bridge the gap to electrification, but stand on their own as practical long-term options for buyers.
Hi, we're with Stephanie Brinle. She's an analyst at S&P Global Mobility. Thanks for joining us on the podcast, Stephanie.
Thanks, Jerry. Glad to be here.
So I'm curious, what's going on with hybrids and automakers right now?
We're looking at regulatory issues have been developing over the last years, right? So we need more electrification. And so there's been more and more hybridization happening. Clearly, Toyota is the leader in the space right now. And as a result, we've had hybrid development move away from purely fuel-efficient vehicles. They are more efficient than the gas vehicles, but they also end up having a little bit more performance and having a little bit more oomph to them as well. And that combination seems to be working really well for consumers. Like we've had in the past full sporty minded hybrid vehicles, and when it's fully in the sport zone, consumers are kind of like hesitant. They don't really get into it as a hybrid sports car. And if it's purely in the fuel efficiency, you can't really get to the mass market that way. But finding something in the middle seems to be what a lot of the hybrid systems are doing right now.
A lot of the automakers are saying that they believe this is a path to people purchasing a full electric vehicle. Do you really see this as a transitional vehicle, or is it really just where the market is at and what people like? They want to save money on gas and they want a car that drives well.
I think that it's the latter. I think people it's working for people right now. They understand that, they're familiar with it. It's a little bit more efficient. It's a little bit cheaper on gas. However, the other thing is what's available too. As I said, we're going to see more electrification, and we're going to see more electrification as a result of regulations anyway. So it was coming one way, shape, or form. And so consumers are used to it. It's easy. If it's the bridge to electric vehicles, it took us 25 years to get to hybrid take rate of 10 or 12%. That's a long time to really kind of make that sort of transition. And I think it does resonate right now. I don't know that it's really a bridge to electrification, or to full electric, partially because they do operate quite differently. You have to make different changes in your lifestyle to get to an EV. They aren't terrible once people make them, but if you're shy about it, it can cause people some hesitation. You don't have to do any of that with the hybrid, of course, but it also doesn't really train you to do it yet.
That leads us to plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. In Europe, they're really ramping up the ranges of those so they could go 60, 70, 80 miles on a charge before gas engine kicks in. And with that amount of range, you can do a whole 2 days of driving completely on electricity. They work in the congestion zones and the pollution zones. Do you think there's potential in the U.S. market for these?
They work in the congestion zones and the pollution zones. There's your magic answer for that. I think there's some interest in plug-in hybrids, and it does help people learn how to work with electric vehicles a little bit differently. But I think, and we're going to start to see more extended range electric vehicles pop up over time. And I think that's probably a better bridge solution than a plug-in hybrid. It's fundamentally simpler for an automaker because you only have one system driving the wheels. It's the electric motors that's driving the wheels, and you're not having to integrate two different drive systems like you do with a plug-in hybrid. And I think at this point, it doesn't seem like consumers are using the plug-in as much on the plug-in hybrids. I think making the range in that 50 to 80 miles range for plug-in hybrid, that does make a significant difference. And typically the plug-in hybrids that we have today also tend to kick into hybrid mode depending on how much throttle you give it, depending on whether you're on the highway, and depending on some other things. So they feel like they live in hybrid mode a little bit more sometimes than they do in electric mode. So it feels like a bit of an awkward transition. I think extended range electric vehicles, depending on what application they are and kind of how quickly they come, I think that's a much more natural transition through technology, actually.
Can you use a smaller engine with smaller horsepower, smaller displacement in an E-Rev to get the same performance you would get out of a regular gasoline or diesel car because you're making it to an electric system that's very efficient?
You can get more. I mean, in the sense of if the numbers that Ram's been talking about for their extended range give you an indication of that. So there's more power, there's more torque, there's more from having the two propulsion, having the two energy sources, I guess, on board. And what you get though, in partly driving that is it's the engine, it's the motors driving the wheels, and electric motors do tend to have more power and more torque. than gasoline motors are putting down. So in some respects, the extended range electric, especially in full-size pickup trucks, has potential to deliver a little bit more than some gasoline and diesels can do.
Is there much to get out of hybridization? Here we're in the hills of Texas. We're driving the new Hyundai Palisade hybrid, and it's a second generation system. Can get up to 34 miles per gallon for a big 3-row SUV. Do we see any technological breakthroughs in hybridization or jumps in large increments?
That's a good question, and I'm not an engineer, but I would guess we're probably going to see more incremental changes. But 35 or 34 miles per gallon out of a 3-row SUV is pretty fantastic. And I was talking about power and performance, and this Hyundai application as well. You're looking at the hybrid system giving you significantly more driving performance than the gasoline engine does. So the consumer also has that to drawing them to the hybrid solution.
Stephanie Brinle of S&P Global Mobility, thanks for joining us today.
Stephanie Brinle is an analyst for S&P Global Mobility. She spoke with our own Jerry Hirsch. That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer and Tierra Riddick, as well as our own Molly Boygon for her reporting for today's podcast. You can get the latest news on CarMax's CEO's exit, the latest updates on the 2025 SEMA show, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com. Come back tomorrow for an interview with our own Dan Shine as he speaks with Richard Lupo on his dealership's move into mobile vehicle service, bringing repairs and maintenance directly to customers' driveways.
After 30 years of slogging through this business, those are some of the core things. You have to meet the customer where they want to be.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.